This video is brought to you by Against the Flow of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is a book about Jake Fayard, a Marine veteran who is unhappy with the political machine running the state of Mississippi. He decides to fight the corruption from the inside. Jake will face more challenges than he ever has and will stand up for what he thinks is right. His notoriously hot temper will push him to the edge of murder, along with his friend and brother Kobe Barhanovich. Together, they will fight the system and give the power back to the citizens of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi was written by Anthony Oksenholt and was published by Oksenholt Biloxi Publishing, LLC. A link to the book will be placed in the description below.
Yeah, this a revolution in our time. Everybody's fighting, change coming, yes. That's why it's an acronym for riot. Everybody has a voice. Don't you dare stay silent. If you say nothing, you are an accessory to violence.
They've had their say. Seems like they've had that kind of say around here for too long. I had to stand up for myself alone. I went in there to remind them that somewhere in this world there's still a little law and order left. To let them know in the only kind of terms that their kind understand is that they can't bribe or threaten their way out of what they did. To let them do this to me and get away with it, and you give them the eternal right to do the same damn thing to any one of you.
Access 228, your host, Anthony Oksenholt, where we report the facts and we are not for sale. If you have a news story or something that's on your mind, please feel free to give us a call at 228-337-2099. Be glad to have you on. Thank you for listening, and we do appreciate all that you do to support us and keep free and independent journalism doing what we do best. All right, y'all. Anthony Oksenholt, Access 228. I saw a clip. I saw a clip earlier, and I had to respond to it. I'm going to play the clip for y'all, and then I'm going to give my opinion. Sorry about my phone going off. I'm getting text messages here from my partner on Access 228. Anyway, let's play the video.
One way or the other, but we got to do something.
Well, we can raise expenditures or raise revenues or cut expenditures or a combination of the two.
True.
So it's easy to say I'm against taxes. Not many people enjoy paying taxes. All right. But the second thing is good. Then if you're not for a property tax increase, be thinking about what you're willing to give up to the tune of $6 to $8 million from these departmental budgets that offer the services that the city provides. The biggest expenditure probably, I know in schools, but also in the city, are personnel.
60%.
Lord knows, I don't think we can offer services without personnel, but the personnel are the biggest fixed expense. Please don't read into this that what we need to do is cut personnel. We don't need to cut personnel.
Let me also, while you're on, because this is all we're
going to not make that point again?
I want at the same point. Okay. Given we're not a city like we have 50,000 people, as far as residents. But any one point in time, especially on the weekend, it may raise from anywhere between 50 to 150,000 people based on the revenue that are the visitors of Biloxi. So we're a little bit. Our profile is a little bit different than a regular 50,000 population city. So we don't have any excuse. We have to support those visitors if we want to maintain our profile. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You're forgiven. So if you're taking anything away from my comments today, think about what services in the city of Biloxi you're willing to do without. To the tune of $6, $7, $8 million if we're going to balance this budget in 1 year. It'd be great to do that. Everybody wants the city to be run like a business, but the city is not like a business. Schools are not like a business. We're not like Ocean Springs. We're not like Gulfport. We have more similarities than dissimilarities, but our situations in each city along the coast is unique. We have different challenges, and it's up to address those challenges. So again, just leave with this thought today. If you're a citizen of Biloxi or you're watching today at home on the video, just think about which services you're willing to do without, which parks you're willing to close, which libraries you're willing to close, all right, which roads you don't want to pave. Come back to me.
Thank you, Mr.
My name was called.
Honestly, thank you, Mr. Tisdale.
My name was called on there, but let me be
Mr.
clear.
Marshall, you like to be recognized?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Let me be clear. Before we start closing roads, before we continue to let our libraries be closed, I'm going to say we need to get rid of the people who've been sitting up here to put us in this situation, because you didn't do it, Mr. and Mrs. Biloxi. We were put in this situation. You paid your taxes. You did what you're supposed to do. If your solution is to put you down and say, well, you don't deserve a library because we mismanaged the money, or where's the money? We don't know. If you're going to say we're going to start closing roads, we can't fix the roads anyway. We don't have the money to pave a pothole. Sitting here 14, 16 years and then say, that's the best I got after all of that time. And then to threaten my citizens, Mr. and Mrs. Biloxi, you did what you're supposed to do. Not one time did you not pay your taxes. I would know, because you'll be sitting here telling us, you took my house. You paid your bills. You deserve that library. It seems to me that we're the only city on this whole coast that has payroll. We're the only city that has employees. We're the only city that has a police department that has to be paid. We're the only city that has parks that need to be fixed. But we are, truthfully told, the only city with a library closed that we can't fix. That's not the problem. Telling us that we got payroll, that's every city's issue. Telling us that we got to pay gas, put gas in our vehicles. Every city has those same issues, but they still paving their potholes. The city of D'Iberville, I was listening to some of them talking. They got plans of what they're going to do in development. They got plans of how they're going to increase, so they want to come back to the city, to their employees, Mr. and Mrs. D'Iberville, Mr. and Mrs. Ocean Springs, or Mrs. and Mrs. Gulfport, saying, oh, we're going to charge you more, or you're going to do it without your library. No, that's low. That's dirty. That's mean. I don't like the sound of that. We are elected to fix the problem and provide the services that we're supposed to provide, because that is what the city does. That's all we do. And we're telling them that we can't do that? How are we going to run for another office and say, I want to control everything when you didn't control the part that you do have? No, we don't do that here. Mr. and Mrs. Biloxi, you deserve better. I ask that you plainly speak up. I can't do this for myself. You have to speak up, Mr. and Mrs. Biloxi, and let the world know that with 8 casinos, we still can't pay our bills. With 8 casinos, our children don't have a library. 8 casinos, those without a way to go online and research can't go to the library because it's closed. That's embarrassing. And we stop blaming it on our citizens, on our employees. Our employees are working. We got employees, the young lady just said, we got 5 employees can't keep up with enough work. They're working their butt off. Where's the money? So don't pretend like we're the only city with payroll and issues and things like that. No, that's not their problem. That's our problem. Thank you, sir.
Let me add too that we're here together. You set the revenue budget and you set the expense budget. That's where we are. We're coming up 6 months from now. We're going to be in a new year. We better come to some conclusion.
Moving right along.
All right, Mr. Creel.
Just real quick,
Now I'm going to tell you, previous things I've seen Anthony Marshall do on the city council have had me wondering if he really knew what he was getting into when he won the election. But you know what? I got to give him this. I really do. I understand, and I just played that small clip. Before that clip, they were talking about inflation and, all this other stuff. And Millage rates going down since 1992 when these stupid casinos that I wish would go away got here, etc., so forth and so on. Don't get me started. But I'm not making a knock at anybody. I'm really not trying to. But I remember when AJ was mayor, I believe we had a good surplus. Now, granted, things were a lot cheaper back then. It was a different time. Inflation certainly wasn't what it is today. I remember the Biloxi Police and the Biloxi Fire Department were paying about $28,000 a year. That tells you how long ago we're going back. And that was decent money. Biloxi was one of the highest paid departments in the state, certainly on the coast. We had, seemed like I remember our streets looking a lot better. We had new construction, casinos, hotels. Again, not a fan. Wish they'd go away. But unfortunately, they are here, and unfortunately, they are not leaving. But Anthony Marshall said something. Said we got 8 casinos in Biloxi. Where's the money going? And I have to ask the same question. And I know money goes and gets distributed all over the state, which I think is stupid. Certainly because I don't trust the state legislature to spend money made on the coast properly. I don't trust them. I certainly wouldn't trust them with my wallet. But we had a surplus budget. What happened to it? I know Oscar Renda screwed us. I'll give you that. Going back in history a few years. They screwed up the roads, they screwed up the contract, they screwed the city, and they screwed all of us. I also have to step back and say Anthony Marshall had a point about those who've been there for 14 and 16 years and some of the stuff that they've done. My opinion, the ball field that the city spent $38 million on back in 2013, 2014, shouldn't have been spent, but it was. And at the same time, that's when all this Oscar Renda crap started. And I'm trying to be polite so that Anita doesn't kick this video off her group, Biloxi Politics Forum, because I think this is important for everybody to hear. But I do believe that the city of Biloxi has spent money in places they shouldn't have spent it. Looking back in history. Do I love the Sanger Theater? I grew up with it. Would I love to see it back operational? Yeah. Will I probably ever buy a ticket to a show? Probably not. I'm not a fan of the theater. That's me. I personally, I don't like people sitting behind me. Okay? Just the way I feel. And if I'm sitting all the way in the back row, I ain't going to be able to hear nothing anyway because my ass is about half deaf. That being said, though I would not personally contribute to the Sanger, I do think it's a great thing that it's being fixed. But I also think it's a luxury that maybe the city can't afford. We have to look at these logically. What's more important? 100-year-old theater, though glorious as it is, or finishing the Pops Ferry Road expansion down to Highway 90 and possibly, hopefully, I hope this is in the plans anyway, four-laning it all the way to D'Iberville. That would be great. That would free up a lot of traffic. We need that infrastructure. We need that north-south corridor. We only have two north-south corridors in the city of Biloxi, Pops Ferry Road and I-110. We need something like that. But I digress. You know, I'm a follow the money kind of guy. I really am. Whenever I investigate something, I'm always looking at where the money's at. Who's got it, who's spending it, where they spending it, who they spending it to, and what the people that are receiving the money doing with it. That's why I love budget meetings. I could bring up anything I want in a budget meeting and it'd be relevant. Because everything goes back to the dollar. Well, folks, I'm sorry. I have never, ever seen Biloxi look like it does today. And I'm appalled. I love Biloxi. I'm from there. My family's been down here for centuries. But my problem at this point is if we can't afford simple things that the city is supposed to provide, why are we doing all this extra? That's my question. My other question is this. They brought up personnel as 60% of the budget. I get that. Nobody wants to be a cop today. Unless you just really want to be. Nobody wants to be a cop. You don't have a lot of people coming out of high school jumping up and saying, hey, give me a gun, a badge, and a uniform. Though that is true, we still need people on the police department. You need to entice people to come and start their career if they are the right sort for the job. Hopefully they hire the right sort. Certainly not everybody needs to be a cop. You got to train them. That costs money. I know when I went through the Corrections Academy, I think the state of Florida spent $7,000 to train me in 3 months. Well, Mississippi Police Academy is about 3 months, and I'm going to assume that with inflation, we're probably at about $10,000 per police officer, and there's no guarantee they're going to stay. Well, we need to figure that out. We need to figure out why. We need to see what we need to do to keep them. Chris D-Back is a smart man. I'd go with him. I'd do what he says. As far as I know, I think Biloxi's the only department he's ever worked for, if I'm not mistaken, and he's certainly been there for decades. But he can't do it by himself. He's got to have the city give some kind of enticement. What better enticement than money? Mississippi doesn't pay cops anything, hardly. I know the state of Florida is now paying state correctional officers $28 an hour, but I don't think the city of Biloxi could even come close to affording that. Granted, we're talking about Florida, we're talking about corrections, but when you think about it, they have fixed their manpower shortage too. Unfortunately, Biloxi's going to have to do that. The fire department, same way. You need to entice people. When a firefighter shows up, they could save your life after a car wreck, or they could run into a burning building to go get your infant out of the bassinet because you can't make it through the flames to get to your infant. That's going to require enticement for people to get that job. Public Works. They said that for a while there they couldn't get anybody to apply to Public Works until they gave them a raise. Well, unfortunately, that's kind of what we're coming down to. Now, here's the bad news for all of y'all. Unfortunately, to have a fully staffed city, it costs more. I think we can all agree on that. We might have to raise millage rates. Might have to raise sales tax. I know they just lowered sales tax, but something's got to give. We might have to raise the hotel tax, whatever that's called. That may turn some people away, but oh well. It's not a likely situation that we're all just going to be like, please take more of our money to give us our services that we expect you to give. Nobody wants that. I certainly don't. But it looks like it may have to happen. But here's my question. I do believe the pushback on the $18 million bond was dropped so that they could get their bond. What are we doing with that money? Where's it budgeted? I think the city, every county, every parish, every whatever kind of government, whatever you are, I think you should have to account for every dollar spent and show where it goes. That's my opinion. Maybe the city of Biloxi actually breaks it down and I just haven't looked. Maybe they don't. But something's got to happen somewhere. Otherwise, we in for some bad times, y'all. And if you looked around lately, it's already getting bad. Let's try to figure this out responsibly. And let's build a better Biloxi. Starting with the budget. Y'all have a good day. Anthony Oksenholt, Access 228. Oh, one more thing before I forget. I do believe that Anthony Marshall had a point. That those that were in charge all those years ago, he's got a point that they should be held accountable. I'm not for all the finger pointing. Most of those people are gone. We got 5 new councilmen within the last couple years. And I think we got a good council. And I believe that all of them sitting on the city council can work through this and can give us what we need and can make it happen. They're going to get some pushback, but I got all the faith in the world in them.